Welcome to the Gary Sansing Public Forum. Our first speaker is Larry Downs Jr. Is he not here?
Can't believe I'm first. Hold on. Larry Downs Jr. Y'all ready? Holy shit. Sorry about that. I get so used to saying that. All right, here we go. Just want to bring something up from October 29th, 2019. How do you play this thing?
Why don't we blow the system up? I mean, obviously we can't just turn off the spigot on the system we have and then say, hey, everyone in the world should get this new vaccine we haven't given to anyone yet. But there must be some way that we grow vaccines mostly in eggs, the way we did in 1947.
In order to make the transition from getting out of the tried and true egg growing, which we know gives us results that can be, beneficial. I mean, we've done well with that, to something that has to be much better. You have to prove that this works, and then you've got to go through all of the clinical trials, phase 1s, phase 2s, phase 3, and then show that this particular product is going to be good over a period of years. That alone, if it works perfectly, is going to take a decade.
There might be a need or even an urgent call for an entity of excitement out there that's completely disruptive, that's not beholden to bureaucratic strings and processes.
So we really do have a problem of how the world perceives influenza, and it's going to be very difficult to change that unless you do it from within and say, I don't care what your perception is, we're going to address the problem in a disruptive way and in an iterative way, because you do need both.
But it is not too crazy to think that an outbreak of a novel avian virus could occur in China somewhere. We could get the RNA sequence from that, beam it to a number of regional centers, if not local, if not even in your home at some point, and print those vaccines on a patch and self-administer.
What was the moment when we're talking about COVID-19? How did you hear that there was a problem? How did you start to see it?
It was like December 31st or January 1st. I got a call from my friend who was the director of the CDC, Bob Redfield, and he said, Tony, something funny is going on, something strange is going on in China. But this idea about a strange pneumonia.
Strange pneumonia. October 29th, 2019. Isn't that interesting? Look it up. It's on my YouTube channel, American Trades Association. This video shows you what they did.
Thank you, Larry.
Get your vaccine.
Our next speaker is Jerry Price.
How many minutes do we have today?
3.
3? Okay, great. Today I'd like to tell you a story. It's a true story. It's about a business owner, the Lucky 7. It's a gas station convenience store, and it's at the corner of New Warrington Road and Mobile Highway. It's other business owners' worst nightmare. And I know each of you are capable of multitasking, but I hope I have your undivided attention on this. 9 businesses signed a petition, and they sent the petition to the sheriffs, to the FHP, to DOT, and also to you gentlemen, the commissioners. And it was asking for help at the intersection on the median for New Warrington Road and Mobile Highway. It was also asking for the camping issue to be resolved on tents. The thing about the camping law and the statute that you have now, it only covers tents. It don't cover sleeping bags. It don't cover blankets. It don't cover sleeping day or night. And I'm hoping that maybe you'll add this to the ordinance or statute to try to help code enforcement, because they're failing miserably with these sleeping bags and people sleeping on the asphalt and on the sidewalks. They need your help. I hate to see Escambia County become like LA. And it's so much in the news, and it's getting worse. I was working in Atlanta, work construction, and I went to park in this parking lot. Went over to pay in the meter, and this guy walks up to me and says, for $5, I'll make sure nothing happens to your truck. And lots of things going through my mind. It says, it's cheaper just to give him the $5. So I go in there and I tell the boss, it says, I won't be here tomorrow, I'm gone. I said, I'm not gonna have my truck destroyed. And he says, Jerry, we need everybody we can get. We gotta get this job done. He says, you come back tomorrow, I'll have a place for you to park. Well, he parked me in the arena parking lot where they have security. And I stayed and finished the job. But this was Atlanta. They're right along the street. You have to walk.
Jerry, you have 10 seconds.
But thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Chris Kerb.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Kerb with Flood Defenders. Read a news article on January 9th in the Panama City News Herald about Hurricane Ivan, one of the most powerful storms that hit the U.S., making landfall Category 4. It's almost a Category 5 hurricane, 7 more miles an hour than it would have been. It knocked out power for 2.6 million residents, caused $12.6 billion in insured losses, more than 20 inches of rain, unprecedented amount of rain, tore across a 140-mile stretch, 144 dead in a 10-county region. Well, why did I bring this up? I mean, Hurricane Ian didn't hit us in the Panhandle, but it's all about risk and insurance. The American Flood Coalition has a blog out on October 21st about FEMA, how they've unveiled the Rate Risk 2.0, modernizing national flood insurance. It's the first time in 50 years FEMA adjusted their methodology for pricing flood insurance premiums. The state, well, recently, December 22nd, Florida legislation session did some insurance reforms and basically $1 billion in subsidies to insurance companies. Oh, that's after $2 billion in insurance, reinsurance funding in May of 22. 8 insurance companies have entered into receivership in Florida since 2019. They haven't showed a profit since 2016. In summary of that, since my time is ticking down, I won't go into all of it. And I did send y'all an email on this with links to this, but high risk equals high insurance costs. Better drainage equals lower risk. If we at all levels of government did better with flooding, then maybe insurance would not be such a problem in the state of Florida. Drainage and flood solutions should be a priority. Fund and update a good plan, protect neighborhoods, adequate flood maps and land development regulation, invest in and equip your staff resources to properly design, acquire funds, and maintain and repair your drainage infrastructure. That's the whole pretense of Flood Defenders. California flooding was on the news this morning. It had 200 inches of snow at the top between December 16th and December 17th, and 47.7 inches of rain. They're calling it a parade of storms in California. We've had 2 1,000-year storms this past year, Texas and Kansas. What all this leads to, and
Can you wrap it up, Chris?
yes, sir. Thanks for the setting up the PAC for the 24th, and I'll be speaking on rainfall data at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Charles Luther.
Good morning. Pensacola News Journal this morning, headline, Pensacola abortion clinic will not reopen after operator gives up license. What's next? Is there a reaction from the Escambia County Commissioners? I didn't think so. we will expect a forthcoming reaction. I hope it's rejoicing that this is done, and I hope you'll do all that you can do to keep either this owner of this previous abortion murder mill from reopening or any new one. So I just got that in a feed, so that wasn't what I planned. What about our libraries? You commissioners, Mr. Chair, approve over $10 million a year in the budget for the libraries in our county. If you go to the card catalog online or go into the libraries and you hit the kids section, kids, not anything but kids. Kind Like Marcia, Learning from LGBTQ Leaders. That's one title that pops up. LGBTQ Human Rights. That's another one. Let me just list these. LGBTQ Icons. Who was Harvey Milk? This Day in June. Oh, This Day in June's a new one, Mr. Chair. And let me read to you from what it says in introducing this new book, This Day in June. In a wildly whimsical, validating, and exuberant reflection of the LGBT community, This Day in June welcomes readers to experience a pride collection and share in a day when we are all united. This Day in June is an excellent tool for teaching respect, acceptance, and understanding of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. What is the Board of County Commissioners going to do? Taxpayers are giving over $10 million a year. We're just wondering. You're the governors of our county. There are 31 hits when you just search in the library system for LGBTQ as the search, and you get, it looks like they're all in favor of it. You get, there might be one that's critical, a book on social networking, maybe warning parents to be on guard if they are against LGBTQ. Well, listen, it's aberrant, it's vile, it's wicked.
You have about 8 seconds if you wrap it up, please.
Christ is going to judge every one of you and me. And are you going to stand before him and think
Your
that as
time's up.
governors of this
Charles,
county?
would you finish it up? Thank you. Our next speaker will be Joshua Luther.
Good morning. The Word of God says in Proverbs 31, the words of King Lemuel, the oracle which his mother taught him. What, O my son, and what, O son of my womb, and what, O son of my vows? Do not give your strength to woman, or your ways to that which destroys kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to desire strong drink. For they will drink and forget what is decreed, and pervert the rights of all the afflicted. Give strong drink to him who is perishing, and wine to him whose life is bitter. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his trouble no more. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all the unfortunate. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and defend the rights of the afflicted and needy. For years, the people of Escambia have been taken to destruction and murdered, and we have heard nothing from you. And the people of Escambia are still being murdered by the abortion kill pill, which can be picked up at a local pharmacy. And we hear nothing from you. God's words is not suggestions. It is his command for us all. We hear a lot of critical talk about God's law. This is what God has to say about his law. The law of the Lord is perfect, restoring the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true. They are righteous altogether. They are more desirable than gold, yes, than much fine gold, sweeter also than honey and the drippings of the honeycomb. Moreover, by them your servant is warned. In keeping them, there is great reward. Will you follow God's word and choose that reward, or will you continue to reject it? God speaks in the end of Isaiah very sobering words. And it shall be from new moon to new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath. All mankind will come to bow down before me, says the Lord. Then they will go forth and look on the corpses of the men who have transgressed against me, for their worm will not die, and their fire will not be quenched, and they will be an abhorrence to all mankind. Will the commissioners of Escambia County be those who bow the knee to the King of Kings, or will they be those who perish?
Thank you. Next speaker will be Mel Pino.
Thank you, Chairman Mamelis, Pino 413 Southeast Boblets. And just in short, to respond to the previous two gentlemen, the reason that we still sadly need all that taxpayer money is to offset the sick bigotry that continues to get passed down along generations. Rick Outzen reported on, I guess, a preliminary finding on the TDT monies. Just had a chance to read it quickly. It wasn't a surprise to any of us that have been following this because, of course, the Tourism Development Council was correct, and there were some irregularities in the way that the monies were dispensed. No big deal. It sounds like it's just going to take some correction of procedures and ordinances. And I would like to remind everybody that the reason that this came to pass was because over months, the chair of the TDC asked the previous administrator, Janice Gilley, to come and explain why she was dispensing monies in this fashion, moving monies around and TDT monies disappearing. And when she refused to answer, the clerk of court stepped in and got up with her smoke and mirrors and song and dances and made up statutes that she then couldn't produce and lies about public records that she then filled by sending emails to herself. What I don't understand, oh, and I also want to say this, is that Rick reported on some of these monies, and there, some of the bulk is for the Marine Resources Division, and I just want to put it on record for the public. That's not the fault of the Marine Resources Division, and Robert Turpin did not come to the BCC and ask that his salary get, accounted for in a particular way. That was the choice of the administrator. But when you add it up, just these monies on these TDT come to $606,000 and some change. I would hope that the BCC is going to send back a recommendation to JLAC that Ms. Childers pay that money back to the taxpayers. She herself has been clear over and over that the reason that she's going to these extreme measures on refusing to cut checks is that she holds the checkbook, and if she cut anything that was against state statute, she's personally liable for that. It's why she holds a bond to protect herself. So $606,000 and $156. JLAC is aware of the statutes. They know that the clerk's office is responsible for that money and not the taxpayers of Escambia County. So hopefully in whatever response the board makes to JLAC, that is one of their recommendations, that the clerk account for the mistakes she made in not governing the money correctly according to statute and her constitutional responsibilities.
Next speaker will be Kevin Wade.
Kevin Wade, 413 Southeast Boblets. At the age of 35, Martin Luther King Jr. received the Nobel Prize. And at that time, he was the youngest person to have ever received the prize. Oh, I believe you and your family need a prize for the celebration that you put on the other night, sir. Oh, I wanted to dance. But there were so many amazing people to meet, and the stories that I heard were just absolutely fascinating. And again, that walk, I've tried to walk alongside, but I'll never understand fully. And there's some people that just can't understand. But what you've done, thank you. And seeing the Brownsville Community Center that pretty, that was very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Board, that ends our speakers, and we will start our board meeting promptly at 9 o'clock. Board of County Commissioners regular meeting January 19, 2023, 9 o'clock a.m. Please turn your cell phone to vibrate, silence, or the off setting. The Board of County Commissioners allows any person to speak regarding an item on the agenda. The speaker is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise determined by the chairman to allow sufficient time for all speakers. The invocation tonight, Commissioner Bagash, this morning, I apologize.
Absolutely. Please stand and join me for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Commissioner Bay, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Absolutely. Please join me as we recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Bagash. Thank you, Commissioner Berry. Are there any items to be added to the agenda?
None for me.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, item 1-2 on the county attorney's report, I will be dropping.
Thank you. So noted.
None for me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
None.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you. So Chair will entertain a motion for the adoption of the agenda as prepared with.
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. Thank you. That passes 4 in favor with Commissioner Bender off the dais. Commissioner's Forum, Commissioner Bagash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to mention my thanks to the community who came out and supported the Martin Luther King Parade. I know that 4 of us were out there, and the crowd was fantastic. It was diverse. It was energetic. Everything was positive. Everything was upbeat. And overall, it was a great day, a great celebration, celebrating a great American and a transformative figure. So my appreciation to staff for driving the trucks, and my aide, Debbie Kenny, and Angela, and all the aides for helping gather all the throws. I know that it's hard to find those things this time of year, and they had to travel to Mobile to get some of them. But it was a perfect day, just one of the best parades that I've ever participated in, just based upon everyone being so positive and happy. I also want to thank all the elected officials and community leaders who joined us at the Brownsville Community Center last night, and the public. We probably had 50, 60 people there to discuss the ongoing issue of gun violence in our community. There was a lot of suggestions batted around. There was a lot of brainstorming. We had citizens that spoke. It's a really tough issue. It's a perplexing problem, really the symptom, frankly, of a much larger issue within areas of our country, not just, unique to Pensacola. So just appreciate Sheriff Simmons' leadership on that. Appreciate all my counterparts who came to the meeting, and the staff that supported it at the Brownsville Community Center. Look forward to doing more of them, and appreciate everyone's participation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Kohler.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just want to echo basically what you said, Jeff. I agree with everything you said. And for you, Commissioner May, you deserve a lot of accolades for the event on Saturday. It was a beautiful event. I agree with Mr. Wade. The unity, the love, the joy, it was just a class act, the civic leaders there. And you should be very proud of that. I was proud to be there and be part of it. On a little more humble note, we got 2 funerals this week. Chief Warrant Officer Eamon's going to be buried on Friday, and Lieutenant Jackson will have a service on Saturday. We've talked about him, but it'll be a sobering moment for our community. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Kohler. Commissioner Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know it's on the agenda here in a second for the proclamation, but I had the honor of presenting Ms. Veronica Pioro with her 100th birthday proclamation. It was great spending some time with her on Saturday and her family, and especially given all that she's gone through. It's great to see a living part of history. So I know there's been a lot of talk this week as we're seeing the Pensacola Beach sign come together. And so we expect it to I think, probably hang the last piece today. And then we'll start connecting everything and working on it. So I would say we hope to have a burn period as soon as everything's ready to go, which would probably last a couple days to let everybody know that it's working. And then maybe next week have a more official, at least a ceremony or something like that. But hopefully as you drive through Gulf Breeze out to Pensacola Beach this weekend, you'll see it operating, and excited to have that coming to fruition. Last time I mentioned that Nick Gradia was the firefighter of the year for the state of Florida. Well, we also, and we had just found out like the day before I mentioned that we also had the volunteer of the year. So Escambia County Fire Rescue Assistant District Chief Yoshimi Kaur was named the 2022 Volunteer Fire Officer of the Year by the Florida Fire Chiefs Association. So that is great to have those recognitions for both of those individuals. And then finally, Friday night, if you live within about 5 miles of the Tom Thumb on Summit, you had an alert Escambia about a missing child that had been last seen in the area. There were a lot of questions about it. People didn't know if it was real, and so we're going to work on a press release to put out some information about that. You received a text message, you received a voicemail message or a phone call. I even got an email on one of my other devices, and so I had actually been in the area, and I realized I may have seen the child as I was leaving the Tom Thumb earlier that evening, and I went back up there. And that's really just to say is that I was blown away by how many people were already out trying to help locate the child. I think after, when I got up there, the child was immediately found, and so we were able to then push that information back out using the same system. So I wanted to recognize Travis Tompkin and his assistance with that. But I probably spent another 10 or 15 minutes driving around letting people know that we're out searching, that the child had been found. And so this is a service that you've probably signed up for if you received it inside that area. If you didn't get it and you want to receive these alerts, these are more, they can be used for this. We sometimes usually do it for hurricane notices, other events that are going on in the county that you need to be aware of. And so you can go to our website and register for the Alert Escambia, and just get special alerts from us. So press release will probably coming out on that today. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Bennett. Commissioner Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to congratulate the Tate cheerleaders. They've won regionals, headed to the state tournament, and recognize the community partners out at Ascend Manufacturing and Chemicals. They've got the community park that was it was very well utilized prior to Hurricane Sally, and then has kind of been out of commission for the last 2 years. They did ribbon cutting out there yesterday, and it looks better than ever. And I certainly want to thank them. They've got a great, the facility itself, the community park itself is fantastic. It gets a tremendous amount of use from the surrounding neighborhoods. But there's also a nonprofit team that works out of Ascend, Ascend Cares, that does they do a lot of good work throughout the community. They've been big partners with the Cantonment Improvement Committee for at least 6 or 7 years. Do a lot of work, and I certainly want to recognize them for their efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner Berry. And I certainly want to thank all of the commissioners who participated with us in the MLK celebration. And we had a great time, Jeff. It was a lot of fun. Whenever we can hang out with Representative Salzman and the mayor, it was good. And it was a great parade. I mean, I was certainly the minority in that parade, at least being the only Democrat. I mean, but it was great to be with all my Republican friends. But we do want to acknowledge the commemoration committee for coming back, because after a long COVID, 2 years of not being able to come together and celebrate for Martin Luther King, who was a great American, who talked about unity and diversity and character and living out the American dream. And so, Kevin Wade, I want to thank you for your kind words and all you did to participate this weekend in trying to bring unity in the community. And I think that that's important to help people from all walks of life, and from your experiences to just come in and to integrate. And certainly the speech that Sandra did on Saturday, it's with the icon of Elizabeth Eckford and H.K. Matthews to be there. I think the great takeaway was, is America desegregated or is it integrated? And I think that that's something that we all could learn to work on, to not desegregate, but to integrate. And that's when you include people from all walks of life into your life. So, Kevin, thank you for that. Certainly want to thank our staff for being a part, and our facility staff and our road crew for getting the trucks. And as Jeff said, our aides and our interns, and Jordan and Audrey and Claire and her team, all for being there and helping out in the parade. It was a great day for Pensacola. With that, that's all I have. Wes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to introduce to you our new Deputy Public Works Director, Tyler Davidson. If you want to come forward real quick. Tyler comes from Choctaw County, Alabama. I'm not sure who's running things there, because it seemed like he was wearing all the hats there in that county. But he's rather. I thought maybe I'd ask him what football team he pulled for, and he says, "Well, I don't really follow football." He said, "I follow golf." Then afterwards, I said, "That was a pretty smart answer." But welcome aboard, Tyler. You want to say a few words?
I will. Good morning, everyone. Like County Administrator Marino said, I have over 11 years of experience in the government field. Ranges everything from emergency management to county airport, and everything in between. I was fortunate enough to wear several different hats, and I feel like coming to Escambia County, I feel like I'm going to be a great asset to you guys. I'm go ahead and say that. I plan to be anyway. I'll have a cell phone very soon, and like I said, I'll be sure that all you guys have that, and look forward to working with everyone.
Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just to point out, we do have our attorneys here to do the presentation. That's item 2-1 on the county attorney's report. They are at the board's pleasure when to do that. We can wait until the end. Your call.
I'm sure John's billing us, so he'd love to do it at the end. Yeah. Yeah. But we'll get it. We'll get him off the taxpayers' dime real quick, but we'll do the proclamations first. The chair will entertain a adoption of the ratifications of proclamations.
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. That passes 5 in favor. Our first proclamation will be presented by Commissioner Bender to Jimmy Jarrett. Adopt the proclamation declaring January 21st, 2023 to be the Arbor Day in Escambia County, Florida.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Escambia County Proclamation. Whereas the celebration of Arbor Day is an annual observance throughout the world that represents an opportunity to take a positive action, to learn about trees and their role in our community through the promotion of proper tree planting and care. And whereas Arbor Day is an opportunity to celebrate life and its interconnectedness with our environment, for neighbors to join together for the benefit of all, for communities to reach across barriers of income, geography, culture, and politics to work for the common good. And whereas certain existing trees are preserved and protected for today's residents and future generations and provide social, environmental, and economic benefits to our community by altering our environment through moderating climate, improving air quality, reducing stormwater runoff, and sheltering wildlife. And whereas trees beautify our community, render screening and privacy, reduce noise, pollution, and heat island. Furthermore, trees decrease energy costs, provide building materials, increase property values, and enhance the economic vitality of business areas in which are planted. And now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida hereby proclaim Saturday, January 21st, 2023 to be Arbor Day. Be it further proclaimed that the board encourages the citizenry of Escambia County to plant, care for, and protect trees to promote and enhance the well-being of this and future generations. Board of County Commissioners, Escambia County, Florida, Luman J. May, Chairman, District 3, Stephen Berry, Vice Chairman, District 5, Jeff Bergosh, District 1, Mike Kohler, District 2, Robert Bender, District 4. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and we're excited to celebrate Arbor Day this year with the coordination of University of Florida Extension Services and through partnerships with the West Florida Regional Library System. We're having a tree giveaway simultaneously at 3 different venues at Bellevue, Tyron, and also in Molino. And we'll be giving information to our citizens and providing trees for the county residents until they're gone. So, and also I'd like to thank our volunteer organizations. Well, IP has actually helped with some of the funding this year, and they're providing some volunteers along with One Corner and, of course, our wonderful master gardeners in Florida Forest Service. So it takes a group to put this on, and I'd like to thank you for helping with the celebration.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Bender. Marion Williams, if you might make your way forward with Commissioner May, would be the proclamation celebrating General Daniel Chappie James Jr. and his contributions as America's first African-American 4-star general. Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Berry. What an honor to be able to read this about Chappie James, who, as Mary knows, was a friend of my father's. So that's great. Whereas General Chappie James Jr. has been honored with an acknowledgement on the 103rd anniversary of his birth. This acknowledgement recognizes the lifetime achievement of an individual who pursued and attained excellence during his life. Whereas General James was born February 11, 1920 in Pensacola East Side neighborhood and graduated from the Booker T. Washington High School before enrolling at Tuskegee Institute. Whereas General James was the first African-American 4-star officer in the armed forces, he was a decorated fighter pilot who earned his Army Corps wings in 1943 at Tuskegee Army Airfield, where he trained pilots for all the Black 99 Pursuit Squadron during World War II. General James flew 101 combat missions in Korea and 78 missions in Vietnam. Whereas General James was promoted to a 4-star rank of general in 1975, assigned as a commander-in-chief at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado at age 58. At Air Force Base in Colorado. At age 58, he died of a heart attack just 3 weeks after his retirement from the Air Force. Whereas the childhood home of General James at 1606 Dr. Martin Luther King Drive was declared as a historical site by the National Registry of Historic Places on November 7, 2000. On June 6, 2018, the home officially opened as the Chappie James Museum. Whereas Escambia County is honored to have General James as a resident, leader, and inspiration in our community. Therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida, celebrate General Chappie James Jr. and invite you to the gala celebrating America's first African-American 4-star general on Saturday, February the 4th, 2023 at Sanders Beach. Board of County Commissioners, Luman May, Chairman, Stephen Berry, Vice Chairman, Jeff Bergosh, District 1, Mike Kohler, District 2, Robert Bender, District 4. Dr. Williams.
Good morning, Commission. It is a joy and a pleasure to be here. One little side note, I actually attended Miss Lily James School as a 4-year-old. 71 years old, I'm running the place. Isn't God good? And our county is a tremendous place. General James not only was an asset, was a role model, and he was always so proud of Pensacola. And I'm proud to be a part of Pensacola and our commission. I thank you so much.
Thanks, Doc.
While Commissioner May is making his way back up, we've also ratified the proclamation honoring and congratulating Mrs. Veronica Pioro on reaching the age of 100 and extending our best wishes to her for continued good health and happiness.
Thank you, Commissioner Berry. And I failed to recognize elected official Allison Patton. Allison, congratulations on being elected, and thank you for joining us today. We will go to the clerks and comptroller's report, and after that, we'll hear from the attorneys, if that's okay. Oh, public hearings, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
you skipped number
apologize.
7 and 8.
So I would move to waive the reading of the legal advertisement and
Second.
accept.
Please vote. Thanks, Commissioner Berry. Passes 5 in favor, thank you. So, public hearing 901.
Do we have any speakers, Mr. Chairman?
Any speakers? Yes.
Okay.
You want to hear from the speakers first? Okay. Larry Downs Jr.
Larry Downs Jr. Plumbing LLC, because fecal matters. All right. I wanted to see if y'all could bump this up, because this is, it was at 50, and I think one or two of y'all advocated it to bring it down to 25 because spending was out of control. But it's, we have this new inflation. I mean, it's quite up there. My materials have doubled in price, doubled. So I don't think 50,000 is enough. I mean, if we're going to bankrupt this county and this country, we need to move on with it. I mean, this is not correct. This should be, at least double, at least 100,000. Y'all know that. I mean, materials are through the roof. Labor, everything that the government, has a hand in, has raised the price. Same way with affordable housing. If y'all would just get in there and make it affordable, we could solve these problems. But I find it interesting that however long ago, was 3 or 4 years ago, you change it from 50 to 25 because spending's out of control and y'all need to be voting on it. Now you bring it back up here for 50,000, to move it back to what it was. This is just silliness. Y'all know it needs to be 100, so please change it if you would. I want to rock and roll this thing.
We got to hurry up and get it bankrupt, Larry, thanks. So we base this off of FPL purchase request.
Mr. Chairman, I move the item if there's no more speakers, if there's no comments.
No.
Second.
Please vote. That passes 5 in favor. Thank you. Clerk and Comptroller's report.
Mr. Chairman, there are 5 items on the clerk's report. The first 2 are the acceptance of the October and November investment reports. The third is acceptance of TDT collection data. The fourth is a recommendation concerning disposition of documents. And then the fifth is minutes and reports prepared by the clerk's office.
Move the clerk's report.
Have a motion and second. Please vote. That passes 5 in favor. If there's no opposition from my colleagues, we will call up Attorney Asmar to present.
Mr. Asmar and Mr. Fillmore, your counsel for the jail litigation are present. The presentation you're going to see is loaded into the computer that's there at the podium, gentlemen. Also, hard copies of it have been distributed to each of you right after public forum this morning, so you can follow along. And if there are any questions?
We've discussed this previously in our shade meeting, so I would say at least the board member, I'm just letting everybody know, the board members are familiar with this just because it's already been discussed, so if you don't see a lot of discussion, I would say that's why.
Absolutely. We'll defer to counsel for any guidance that they need from the board.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Richard Fillmore. My law partner, John Asmar, and I and our firm, Cole, Scott & Cassane, as you know, was retained by Escambia County and the commissioners to represent the county in a number of legal issues with the design-build contractor that the county contracted with to construct the new Escambia County Correctional Facility, which is immediately adjacent to what we call the old jail. As the commission knows, the present disputes with the design builder are rooted in initial claims that the design builder brought against the county, claiming excused delays, among other things, for COVID. The county believes that many of these delays were not excusable, but the focus of that litigation has been on a term called substantial completion, which is essentially when a temporary CO is issued, the county can begin moving in staff, begin training staff, and move towards fully operating that building. But we believe that the more appropriate thing and the more appropriate contractual provision that needs to be focused on is final completion. And the reason that is important is just like any homeowner, any building owner, as far as the county's concerned, the important part about occupying the new jail is when it's done, when everything is ready for the full use of that jail. And it's our opinion that we haven't reached that point. And more importantly, for the legal proceedings that we're having with Witzel Green, Cadell, which is the joint venture that built the jail, that was the design builder, they have not reached final completion from a legal perspective. And these white boxes here are actually excerpts from the design build agreement with Witzel Green Cadell. And final completion, again, is when the contract definitions of what being finally complete are met. And the contract does go through and offers very specific details as to what final completion means. And there are very specific requirements that the design builder has to deliver to the county. This includes warranties. It requires following a specific process to request that the county participate, along with its representatives, in walkthroughs to make sure warranty items are complete, to make sure punch list items are complete. It provides the design builder with an opportunity to repair those items. And most importantly, it notes that the county is not restricted in time to enforce its rights under the contract. There are certain requirements that Witzel Green was required to follow before requesting final completion inspection. They had to submit a final payment application, which I will submit they did. They have to have a certified list that the items on the punch list were completed, and that has to be signed by the architect. That hasn't happened here. They have to provide certificates of insurance and submit photo documentation that all of the items are complete. Only part of these items have been complete, and this is just to start the process. Then there comes the actual final completion requirements. This includes, again, inspection of the work, certificates of insurance, inspections that the project is satisfactory complete and that the punch list is completed. It requires consent of the sureties as to final payment. It requires a full set of as-built plans that will represent the as-built condition of the building. Master spare parts so that the county is not having to buy parts for initial replacements of items in the building, operations and maintenance manuals. And I will submit to the board that just in these first 5, we're still incomplete. We don't have written consent of the sureties. We have what the design builder has represented as as-built plans, but there are incomplete representations of what actually exists in that jail, and they are not certified by the engineer of record. This goes on with 6 other requirements, and most importantly, the last item is any other documents reasonably and customarily required to expressly, that are required in the contract for closeout work. And one of the important parts here that the design builder has represented to the county, in some occasions has been done, payment of the subcontractors, we know is not true because there are active lawsuits against the payment sureties for a number of subcontractors. There are a number of other requirements for final completion of the jail that are included in the contract specifications, which is another section outside of the main contract, but are incorporated into the contract. An example of this is the test and balance of the HVAC system, which is one of the most expensive and complex systems in this jail. And it requires that these tests be conducted 90 days apart, one of them occurring in the summer, which is obviously the highest demand, the peak season. That tab has not occurred. There was an initial tab. This second tab occurred a year and a half later and effectively was not done per the specification requirements. And what that means is that HVAC system is operating without being properly tuned to work right. It's shortening the lifespan of that system, and ultimately what that means is it's going to cost the county taxpayers money. Now, again, and one of the reasons we're here today is, again, enforcement of the contract rights for the county. And the contract is very specific as to the county's rights that it can enforce under this agreement. And the county can withhold final payment to the design-build contractor if there are material breaches. And those include the design-build entity's failure to perform the work in compliance with the contract, failure to correctly and accurately represent the work performed in a payment request or otherwise. And I'll highlight that one again because these payment requests are where Witzel Green certified in affidavits that all of their subcontractors have been paid. We know again by that litigation that has been filed that that has not happened and is not an accurate representation. So this second line here, we know for a fact there has been material misrepresentations by the design builder. The design builder's entity's performance of the work at a rate or manner, I would argue that this one is inapplicable because the design builder has demobilized. They are no longer on site. We're not talking about their performance of the actual work. At this point, we're talking about the fact that it hasn't been completed. The failure to use funds to pay the design-build entity by the county, and this includes payment of its subcontractors and suppliers. Again, they failed there. And then failure or refusal to perform any of its obligations under the contract. And this gets to the crux of why we're here today. The county's rights provide the county the right to terminate this contract for material breaches. Again, they include some of what's included in that previous section that I showed you, but they provide additional items that would constitute a material breach. And again, substantially performing the contract, failure to pay its subcontractors, failure to build to Florida code or to building ordinances, unable to pay its subcontractors or suppliers, and failure to properly manage the project. The county's rights, if termination is elected, provides a number of avenues of what the county can do with the withheld money which is afforded under the contract. It can pay the subcontractors. It can hire contractors to complete or repair incomplete or deficient work. It can complete the work by whatever methods that the county deems proper. And that is what we are here today to discuss and ask the county to take action on, is to enforce its rights under this contract. The information that I've covered in here, obviously the jail is a complex building. There are a number of legal issues that are going to be discussed, that are going to be litigated. What we're discussing today is merely the county's enforcements of its contractual rights under the design-build agreement. And we are making legal recommendations to the county so that the county can enforce and protect its rights under that contract. Protection of other rights, including seeking completion of the construction, correction and repair of construction defects, and recovery of financial losses due to this process and the failure of the design builder, will occur through other avenues. But the protection of the contractual rights is the first step and the first hurdle and the first most important step for the county to do to enforce the contract and protect its rights provided therein. And that's why we are here today and have discussed in general, and we've discussed with the commissioners in more detail in the shade meetings, what are the deficiencies in the contract, the failures of the design builder, and we're here today to ask the commission to vote to terminate the contract agreement with Witzel Green Cadell and move forward with other legal protections after that termination that are afforded by the contract. So Commissioners, today, it is our recommendation as the county's legal representatives in this matter that the Board of County Commissioners vote to terminate the contract with Witzel Green Cadell. Thank you.
Commissioner Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Counsel, does that complete everything that needed to be said today? Okay.
Yes, sir, I believe so. This is the only thing that I believe Mr. Fillmore will be asking from the board for today.
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. I move to terminate the contract with the joint venture entity and do everything possible to protect the county's interest.
Second.
Please vote. Passes 5 in favor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners.
County Administrative Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 4 items on the technical public service consent agenda. There are no changes.
Mr. Chairman, I move the consent agenda.
Second.
Please vote. That passes 5 in favor. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, there are 27 items on the budget finance consent agenda. Please make the following changes. Hold for speakers, CAR 222, recommendation concerning the issuance of a purchase order to Bill Walther Roofing.
That's good. And I don't need to hold it, Wes, but we're just going to do 1 year,
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
On number 6.
1 year extension, yep.
Yep. Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the balance.
Second.
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Did we get any additional information on 19, if that property had sold yet?
Come on, Stacy.
We did not find that the title has transferred yet. However, we can always work with a new owner in order to bring back another easement.
Okay, and I think I heard you reaching out to the agent to let them know that this was occurring, and so, board we found out yesterday that the property had either been sold or was under contract for sale, but we need to move forward with the project, and
It is under contract.
it's under contract, then we're good then.
They're not closing till February, so this will be recorded by the current property owner.
Perfect, thank you.
We're buying it from David Lloyd and Scott Whiteout, right?
No, so this is just a temporary construction easement.
Oh,
on
that's
19.
just temporary.
Yep.
Oh.
As we replaced the bridge, we have to divert traffic around the construction area.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Melissa Pino?
Thank you, Chairman. May Melissa Pino, 413 Southeast Boblitz, and I want to ask the board's patience for just a moment while I go over some things that will be familiar to the board, but I'm not sure that Commissioner Kohler might be aware of them concerning this project. And I know sometimes you guys might get sick of hearing the same stuff over and over, but I think it's hard for us to sometimes remember that those of us that have been immersed 24/7 politically for years forget how much other people don't know or don't remember about things that have happened. And so when we're talking to you all, we're also speaking to put things on the record for all the people that are watching the tape. And people come in and out with their interest and fall in and out of what they're paying attention to. So the rest of the commission will be aware of this, but I just wanted to make sure that Commissioner Kohler was aware of some of the history of this. It's really too bad that this is the way this building got handled, because it is unfortunately putting lipstick on a pig. And if we had had a more invested commissioner invested in our parks on the west side, this building would have been ripped down altogether, and we'd be well on our way to having a Brownsville Community Center there. And maybe someday, I'm grateful for the work that staff did do to get this thing even, so you can even have a meeting there. I mean, it's so moldy, it's just terrible what's happened. And this is not by any means the problem of facilities or the staff of parks. Michael Rhodes does a wonderful job with our parks. When you look around, it is the wasteland at parks on the west side. That was by design, unfortunately. And the thing that staff can do about that, pull the playground equipment out, devalue it, neglect it. There were a lot of developers lined up for some of our parks. It's not a lie that he at one point wanted to try to sell Navy Point Park. He put it up on Facebook. We saved Corey Park from the hatchet. City has already been next door in Marino Court with their golden shovels. Downtown would be very interested in that giant swath of neglected land where Michael Rhodes has long been interested in doing various things with. I have no idea where that is, but I just wanted to say to you, thank you for taking an interest again in our parks, and please guard that Lexington Terrace Park with all your heart, because that thing has been a sitting duck for a long time. And someday, maybe, we'll have a Brownsville Community Center there to help regenerate that area, because we badly need it, as you well know.
Mr. Chair, I just want to say, Melissa, I agree 100% on that. Lexington Terrace needs to be taken care of. I'm committed to that.
Yeah, all right, thank you. We'll entertain a motion for,
Do you want to move it, Commissioner Kohler?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
please vote. Passes 5 in favor. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, there are 4 items on CAR 3 discussion. Item number 1 is a recommendation concerning amendment number 2 to the landfill gas sales agreement between Escambia County, Florida and Florida Power and Light.
Do we have any speakers, Mr. Chairman?
No, sir, we do not.
I would move the item in the affirmative.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second, please vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to recognize Donald, and I appreciate him coming around to our meetings this week. I think we had a discussion above and beyond just this one item. And so I think we're lucky to have him, and pleased with what he's doing out there.
Great. That passes 5 in favor. And I see Rick Breyer here from FPL. Rick, thank you for what you're doing, and we're glad that it works out. We certainly appreciate your involvement and what you're doing for economic development for our county. We certainly appreciate it. Wes?
Mr. Chairman, item number 2 is a recommendation concerning the conveyance of a restrictive easement on the 3 county-owned parcels located behind the 9600 block of Westgate Circle to the United States by and through the Department of the Navy.
No, sir.
I'll make a motion to move this.
Second.
Please vote. That passes 5 in favor.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, if I may just have a quick moment.
Yes, sir.
I would just like to say, I mean, I think this just shows the great partnership that Escambia County has with our military and the efforts that we're taking to help protect the base. You know, this money is going to be used to be able to go out and buy additional properties. So, yeah, I just want to say that I think Escambia County is here to help the base any way we can, and proud of the relationship that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bender. For 3, Wes, we have quite a few speakers.
We do?
Yes, sir. So I think we'll hear from the speakers. It's the home ARP allocation plan discussion, Wes Marino. And Wes, would you entertain the speakers before you present?
Sure, absolutely.
Or would you like to present first?
Absolutely. We'll go ahead. Mel Pino?
Thank you, Melissa Pino, 413 Southeast Boblitz. I first want to commend staff with the spirit that they've brought this item. I have no idea how the board feels about the process or how things have been brought, but I think that they're dead on. With our need for a non-congregate shelter, it's been a need for a really long time. It's a dire need. And for best practices moving forward, we really should not be relying on private agencies that the county doesn't fund with handshake, verbal agreements on shelters and emergency stuff that then gets billed to the city for taxis that Laura Kennedy orders up, and the direction that everything go through the waterfront mission. Increasingly, if the Red Cross is going to have so much trouble and they're spread so thin, unfortunately, it's going to fall on the county for better emergency services. So thank you to staff for recognizing the need for this and urging the BCC on with it. There ain't no way you're building a building for $4 million. Or probably 8. It'll be another jail all over again. 75% of $4 million, the 25% will get change ordered up, and then whoever's waiting in the wings to build this new building will come to you guys for another $4 million if it's even that. Now, I sent out an email this morning because I wanted to check with Clara and Stefan to clarify some of these monies. Stefan told me that of the 3 grants that I mentioned, all of them CDBG, that those have all been burned through, and that in addition, y'all allocated even more money out into the community. I think, though, that there's still a chance that there's 1.3 mil left in a line of credit with HUD, and so I would just ask that maybe a team sit down. That was such a chaotic time for staff, and they had so much on their plates to comb through all of the existing CBDG stuff, the grants, all of it, and make sure that there haven't been any little pockets of money that can't be bundled together. We need non-congregate emergency low barrier shelters. We also desperately need rentals, affordable rentals. So why are we going to build a building and then put out an RFP that we don't even know if an agency is going to be coming unless there's one waiting in the wings on this? Buy a hotel, split it, 75-25, 50-50, 60-40, whatever you all decide. Make part of it non-congregate, low barrier emergency shelter where people can come to be sent to other places that can take care of them better. And then make part of it truly affordable rentals, because we can't fix this without a multi-pronged approach. And the service providers that I've spoken with and the homeless advocates who know way more than I do, I'm sorry Michael Kimbrell couldn't be here, he's got an early morning Thursday commitment, have all said they've got real qualms about building this thing. If they build it, a service provider might not come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel.
Kevin Wade.
Yeah, Kevin Wade.
Walter Arrington.
Good morning, Commissioners. Walter Arrington, 1825 Bainbridge Avenue. I do have some packets that I'd like to hand up to the Commission, just for them to review on some of the numbers of homelessness in our area. This is some data also from community. You know, I just want to kind of echo some of what others have said. I think that we've got a one-shot here to build out longitudinal infrastructure to address the needs of the homeless community, and staff has worked hard on this. You know, I think that this plan is put forth is a good plan, and it's a plan that can have a positive impact on the community. You know, there's going to be a lot of work on the back end to make sure that we do implement this in an appropriate way. But again, we have a demonstrated need in this community. The packet that I'm handing out is just some of the numbers from 2019 to 21 of homelessness that Community Health collected. We did run the initial reports in 2022, and we're over 2,000 unduplicated individuals experiencing homelessness that have been served by Community Health. We do not have those reports finalized yet. And then in the back of that packet as well is just a layout of some of the research on implementation of shelters, especially single and non-congregate shelters, as well as just a prospectus I wrote a couple years ago when I had a little free time. So I do thank staff, and I do thank the commission. Thank you.
Larry Downs Jr.
Larry Downs Jr. Hey, I appreciate y'all bringing the papers back, sign-in papers. It's been almost 3 years. I guess we had to do away with these because they transferred COVID. But thank y'all for bringing them back. That way I can submit some public records requests. All right, this homeless issue, you know, ask yourself, why do we have such a homeless problem? Could it be governance? Could it be an unlimited governance? HUD, you know, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Is there anything that says unlimited governance more than that? The U.S. federal government? And I think that's where these funds are coming from, right? I mean, they're coming from us. They take them, then they give us a little bit back. Way of grants and stuff, you know, it's grants. Larry, it doesn't have anything, it's not our money, Larry, it's grants, magical grant money. So anyways, you know, everybody comes up here and wants more money, and they want more homeless shelters. I mean, is it really the government's purview? What about people who don't have clothes? When are we going to have some clothes, acquisitioning shelters where y'all can use the acquisition team here to get some clothes money? You know, free health care? I've heard that health care is a human right. Y'all have heard that? You know, and equity? I said this at the school board meeting night before last. Equity. Y'all ever heard equity being mentioned as far as, limited governance? Equity is something you hear about on your mortgage or your business assets or your personal assets. You know, you got equity in them, right? How is equity all of a sudden part of a human right? Is it maybe Mr. Lumen May owns a lot of properties. Maybe he should share them, you know, and make it equitable for everybody else in your district. You know, this is where we are. And I just come up here and point out the obvious. I know it's not going to do no good, but y'all, local, state, and federal, give me the comedy. So I'm just, it's not up yet, Lumen. 10 more seconds. So anyways, don't forget to wear that mask, Lumen, because there's still cold and flu season. Get it on.
Well, just come back at 5:30, Larry. We'll give you as much time as you want. Go ahead.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Homelessness is a topic that has been much discussed over the past year, maybe even before that. And so in putting this strategy together, what I did was I reached out to a group of people that I think are highly successful and probably more subject matter experts than myself, which is what I tend to do when I'm trying to tackle an issue. And I met with Miss Allison Patton, city council person, and she and I sat and had a conversation. And the conversation wasn't about the money. It really wasn't. We've not discussed money in our meetings, and it was really about the issue, is what it's about. And so we started researching. Liz Kissel's been involved. Chandra Smiley's been involved. Walter's been involved. A team that I think is strong. And we started looking at strategies in other communities, further south in the state, even as far as Minnesota and some other places that we've looked at. And by doing that research, we gathered this strategy, put this strategy together, and we feel it's a good strategy. I know there's a lot of thoughts and a lot of ideas, but I do feel like what we've been doing has definitely not been successful. Without a core group that's really going to take the action, I just don't think it's going to move the needle. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to move the needle. And we're also working with Opening Doors and the point in time count. We've met with them several times. There's been some planning sessions on how to attack the point in time count that's coming up. We feel like that's a vital component of being able to apply for more grant monies. And We're also going to visit some other communities that seem to be able to be a little more successful than we are and their strategies and how they're doing things. But that's how we put this together. It was a collaborative effort. Again, we haven't talked about the money. We haven't talked about who's going to get the money, who's going to spend the money, we know that this board will allocate the money to the initiatives that they deem the best. But we wanted to bring a strategy that we felt is successful in other areas and that will let us move the needle. Everywhere we've looked, the low barrier non-congregate shelter seems to be a key component to being successful. And so we wanted to recommend that as part of the strategy. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going out to build a $4 million building. I don't think that's what we're recommending. I think what we're recommending is to come up with a strategy to accomplish the goal. Maybe there are buildings that exist permanently now that we don't have to build anything, maybe we just need a little modification. And then we also attached is an application to provide support services for those in the community, our community partners who provide support services. There's an application that they can apply to do that. But with that, I will turn the discussion over.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Wes, and a good presentation. I do have some thoughts, but we'll start with Commissioner Bagash.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing I wanted to say was the last time we talked about this money here on the board, I really liked the idea that Commissioner Berry brought, and I agreed with, that we look at a wide variety of different entities, organizations going to provide care in the space, and then not unlike Impact 100 in the process they utilize to award smaller grants, that this board would make those decisions. That way we could try a variety of different strategies, some that you guys might agree with, some that maybe you don't agree with, but we could try a variety of strategies and then go all in on the stuff that works. I just want to make sure that we're not pigeonholing ourselves with such a big portion of it in one bucket at 75%. Wes, we talked specifically about one of the initiatives I want to pursue. Would that be qualified under this bucket?
That would not.
Okay, so why
Well,
is
what
that?
do you want to pursue, Jeff?
Well, I'm looking at scaling up Satoshi Forest, something similar to that. A group out away from the city center, bringing the services to the people, busing them in and out. So why would that not be allowed, Wes?
It's the constraints of the grant.
So it would never have been allowed?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
Well, that's disappointing. Okay, well, so what about other approaches? 75%, as I read this, 75% we're going to sink into housing.
We've listed the initiatives and we assigned some percentages to them. We are not tied to that percentage. We can move those percentages or adjust those percentages to some of the support services or what have you. We can adjust those percentages as soon as we get the plan. We just got to get the plan accepted and submitted is really what we're trying to do.
Can you give me an idea of what sorts of programs would be allowable under this? Because apparently I'm
Well,
way out
support
of the loop.
services, case management, health care, mental health care, substance abuse, trauma.
In terms of housing, in terms of
Liz, you want to come up?
Yeah, and Jeff, I'll tell you right now, and I've talked to Wes, and as I said, we got to get the plan in. But we can change these numbers right now. We have the ability before we vote. For me, I'm not going to vote for 75% for the congregate shelter. I mean, it can be close to that number, but the number one issue I have in my district is affordable housing. And people can't find, this is a great opportunity right now to increase that number. I mean, that's transitional, it's temporary, and it's needed. But I mean, I serve on the board of area housing. I mean, we have people who've been on a waiting list for affordable housing for 3 years. There's nothing affordable, in the urban core because of gentrification. People just can't afford it. This is an opportunity, to put a few more dollars into affordable rentals. And so, when the motion comes, I'm gonna move to raise that 7%. To some number that's higher than 7%.
Let me ask Liz, so could we use this money to provide shelter for homeless people if it meets the criteria and has a bathroom and a room? I'm just trying to think of different ways to think outside the box.
So let me give you the Cliff Notes.
Yeah,
Just on
please.
what we can use these funds. So affordable rental housing is one of them.
Absolutely.
We do have some funds right now in Neighborhood and Human Services that we also can use for affordable rental housing.
I'm not interested, and I know that, but I'm saying that I want to keep the discussion to this. I know that we have funds.
The
over there.
idea was to piggyback with that, to be able to use those funds in conjunction for the affordable
Right.
rentals. The other thing we have is rental assistance. We also do have a ERA, which is Emergency Rental Assistance in Neighborhood and Human Services, and we're not spending that money fast enough, which is why that's not included in our plan, because we do have that funding already. Acquisition and development of non-congregate sheltering. So that just means it has to have a room and a bathroom.
So you could do technically, you could do a compound of tiny houses, for lack of a better word.
Yes.
That would qualify. So maybe not tents, but maybe some other sort of dwelling.
Yes.
What about portable dwellings? What about, I'm just trying to think outside the box, because to buy a structure or build a structure is going to be incredibly expensive, but is there a better way to provide shelter that meets that criteria, perhaps with something along the lines of like FEMA trailers? Remember the FEMA trailers? Would
So
that
a lot
qualify?
of communities are utilizing the shipment containers.
Yeah, there we go. That would qualify.
That would qualify.
So we could do the Satoshi Forest model if I got the votes for it. We just couldn't use tents. We just have to use some sort of housing that has a room and a
We'd
bathroom.
have to come up with some kind of hybrid, but
Okay.
yes.
And we could use this pot of money for something like that if I can get the support for it,
Yes,
just not tents.
as long as it's non-congregate, yes. As long as they have their own room, but they would have to have their own bathroom.
And it could be out, away from the city, away from people, and we could bring services to them, correct? Would that be?
There's no limitation to where we place it,
Okay.
besides.
Which
you
pot would that
guys.
come from? That would come from the 75%?
That would come from the
Okay.
75%, yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
The other thing we did put in there, I think we put low barrier, non-congregate sheltering. It doesn't have to be low barrier. It could be non-congregate shelter for families. It could be, so when we submit our plan, we can take the low barrier portion out of our plan and then decide later if we want it to be low barrier families, who we want.
Yeah, I think this gives you a lot of flex, Jeff. And Jeff, I mean, for me, excuse me, Liz, for a second. When we start talking about moving people out and putting them outside the city, one of the problems, when you look at this plan, you have to have connectivity to services.
Sure.
So, I mean, if you move people so far out that they can't get the service for substance abuse, for health care, for food, I mean, what good is it just to, displace people and not have them?
If I might just interject, I think the idea is you bring the services to them, one central location, and then you provide them daily transportation to the bus hub and bus passes. But, I mean, what I've seen in my neighborhoods, and I'm sure you'll hear it too, they just don't want the people in their neighborhoods because that results in crime, that results in panhandling, which, like it or hate it, it blights up communities. So if you truly need help, here's some money, here's something we could do, here's a way out. You could bring the health clinic to them, you could bring the job training to them, you could bring the mental health counseling to them away from the city. I just think I may not have any support for it. I think it's the right way.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's.
That way you're not dumping it in someone's community next to houses, which they tried to do in District 1.
Right, well, I mean, District
shut that
3,
down.
District 3's, we can talk how District 3's been disproportionately flooded with any ills of society. But to me, if the plan, it does not encompass taking someone from a transitional home to a permanent home, then it's a bad plan. It's almost like public housing. You're going to put people in public housing for 20 or 30 years. That can't be the long-term goal of putting someone in a shelter.
That's right.
A part of the long-term goal and that's why I want to increase the numbers of affordable rental and home ownership. We have to be able to move people from our community that are Escambia County residents. We got to move them from homelessness and transitional housing to permanent housing. Whether that's giving them substance abuse, whether that's giving them mental health counseling, whether that's temporarily putting them in a place to live. I, for one, would never put anyone in anything that I wouldn't live in. I work with my kids. I just wouldn't do that. I mean, it has, to me, I'm not saying it's going to be a Marriott, but it has to be nice and it has to be programmed. Just to open up a shelter and just say, I'm going to let you come sleep here for the night and get over your hangover. I'm going to go to another hangover because you've never addressed the real ill or the issues of giving me the counseling that I need. So I understand where you're going, Jeff, but I think that this plan allows for those who do this daily. I mean, I'm not an expert on homelessness and shelters. It allows for organizations to come back with their plan to tell us exactly what they're going to do. So I think that this plan is broad. I think today what they're asking for is the percentages, and I think that's what we have to agree on. You know, do we want to allocate these percentages in the categories that they're in? Commissioner Bender?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I think a great use of this funds is, I'll say close to where it is right now. I understand if you want to do a little bit more for affordable rentals, but I would like to point out that yesterday the DEO announced a $25 million program designed to construct new affordable rental houses in areas impacted by Hurricane Sally. That's 5 counties. So I would, you know, there's some webinar information coming up in 2 weeks that I know we're going to be on and getting more information, but I want to let you know there's $25 million there.
Yeah, and I surely hope we're pursuing that.
It was just announced yesterday, so I think we've been aware of it for a little bit. There was also $45 million. It's a subrecipient program designed to repair, replace, or reconstruct homes damaged by Hurricane Sally. So, again, I think we have some economic opportunities coming from the DEO through HUD, and so I look forward to taking advantage of these. So I'm saying there are other things out there for the affordable rentals that you talked about. You know, I've seen this as one-time money that we should try to spend it on much as a one-time expense as we can. That way, we're not worried about where the funding's coming from in the out years on how it's going to be sustained. So, you know,
yeah, and
9%
Robert,
for professional supportive services. I mean, I know that's where you're going to get the help, as you were talking about, you know, and it's very important. But I think to be able to use this money for a shelter moving forward is so I'm going to.
yeah, and Robert, and what I would say, 5% off the shelter, I mean, is not going to matter. I mean,
And that's fine.
I mean, it really, but let me just tell you, it could leverage to build 2, 3, 4 more rental housing. I mean, we can globally look at this or individually look at this. I mean, if I take 2 people and get them in a nice, decent, affordable house, to me, that's progress. That's 2 more people that I don't have that's homeless. And so I'm all for the shelter. I ran a shelter for Salvation Army for years, so I know the importance of it.
Well, if I may, so we did hear that the military got a bump in housing and food costs. And to be more, you know, to help this area, I think our board had sent a resolution requesting that.
Yep.
In support of that, so that's come out. But, you know, as they were saying, one of the biggest shortages they have are in duplexes and townhomes and the like for those. So, again, I mean, 12% is a little over, what, $500,000 or so?
Yep.
Or something like, not quite, but.
12% of 4.
Yeah,
I mean,
about 450, I guess.
Yeah.
A little over 4.
And I mean, I don't expect for us to carry the whole load. I think that our housing organizations, our CHOTOs, if you give them somewhat of a stimulus, they will come and they will put some money in the pot. I mean, even for me, we have a very giving and a philanthropy community. Just not even on the shelters. There are people who are doing this work, and there are other funding sources for the shelters as well. I mean, you know, so I think that the plan's liquid, Robert. I mean, I don't want to sit here and have a debate all day about it. I mean, whenever the motion, if someone won't make it, I'll pass the gavel and I'll make it to add 5% to the rentals, and you know.
If there's no other discussion, then I'd make that motion to pass this plan with Stephen with changing A to 70% and C to 12%.
Second.
Well, I'd like to just have a comment. I'm for this plan. I just have a concern. If we move it to 70% and we don't have the money for the low barrier shelter, where do we go from there?
How much does the low barrier shelter cost?
That's what I'm asking, because
So it don't matter whether it's 90% or 100%. I mean, tell me what it costs right now, and then we'll figure out the real number.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, we don't really know that number just yet because we're still looking for facilities that are existing and available and what work would have to be completed and done to those facilities to make them meet the qualifications of the grant. So we don't really know that number just yet.
And I'm definitely for a low-barrier shelter because I believe that the services should be in a specific area. I think that's the best way to treat some of these folks' addictions. When I was on the health authority, I went with Vinny to a lot of these sites, and some of them are very good. But I think when we move forward with that, that needs to be considered because you can't, Jeff, I know what you're saying, but if you don't have the services there, it's like hodgepodge, and then we're not really helping this situation as the best we can.
And Mike, I'll tell you, we can take money out of economic development. We can take it from wherever we want to take it from. We can take it out of general fund. I've said forever, we should be buying these blighted hotels that are, causing us more problems. You can do an economic development project. You can remove blight. I mean, there's other grants through CRAs. I mean, I think that there's other ways to leverage once we find that location. I know staff's been looking at locations. They probably don't want to disclose those locations at this time, but I think that they're going to be able to come back with a plan that's going to be beneficial. And I think with the right plan, we can find the resources.
No complaint from me.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote. FPL may give us that big building they got downtown, and we can put them there. Oh, yeah, he probably left purposely.
Mr. Chairman, item number 4 on discussion is concerning the acquisition of 1100 West Scott Street and various parcels for a community center.
Do we have any speakers, Mr. Chairman? No speakers? All right, I would move the item in the affirmative.
I want to talk about this for just a second, if I can.
Second, then. Okay, so yeah, second, so now discussion.
Sorry. Apologize for that. I hope the board has an appetite to change the way we do business. I got this 2 days ago. I'm for parks, I'm for civics, but we're going to vote for $1.7 million. And there's a park 2 blocks away from it. And I guess I'm trying to figure out what we're going to do with this property. I haven't had enough time to figure it out.
Let me help you out, Mike.
Okay.
So, because you're new on the board. So there was a thing called a jail explosion that happened a few years back that you'd heard about litigation today, which became the largest public works project. Within that project, there was a commitment to the community that people would get jobs, that we would take and do economic development on Pace and Fairfield, and we would create incubators and small businesses there, which should all happen when the jail construction started, and also a community center would be built in that area for them. And so the money was already allocated, $5 million was already set aside for it back then. So
Okay, I didn't know that. So that, I didn't know the money was set aside. I got it 2 days ago. That was my question.
Yeah, and so I think that, I didn't even, it didn't have to be on the agenda today. It could be on the agenda next week as far as I'm concerned, but that's the premise. But this is probably one of the best deals the county could get. Quite frankly, 33,000 square feet at $1.7 million. I mean, you know what? It could be used as a shelter. I mean, there's a lot of things that this building could be used for. I mean, it's a real deal. A $7 million building for 1.7. I want to commend Wes and his staff for the negotiations for it because I know it started out close to $3 million, and to get it down with the work of Debbie and Clara and Wes to get a $7 million deal for 1.7. I think it's going to be a good deal, but they're still in negotiations. I think there's some moving pieces, but it's going to be a game changer for that neighborhood. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote. That passes 5 in favor.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Wes. Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, at the outset of the meeting, I dropped item 1-2, and you've already seen the presentation from 2-1. That leaves items 1-1 and 1-3. I can answer any questions you may have.
I move items 1 and 3 of the county attorney's report in the affirmative.
Second.
Please vote. That passes 5 in favor. Do we have anything else? Madam Attorney? We didn't have any add-ons, correct, Wes? We stand adjourned. Thank you.